Well, this is JC. I ran across old George Perry again here a while back, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. And frankly, I wasn't very anxious to see him again. But it seemed like he called me up one time, said he was going to go hunting, and wanted to know if I wanted to go with him. And I told him, no, George, I really don't. I haven't been hunting in years, and I'm kind of, out of it, kind of lost the desire to hunt. And, he got real excited about it. He said he knew this place where we get deer, or there was even elk. I asked him where it was, and he kind of hummed around a little bit. He was up around Bernie somewhere, I guess, up in that area. And I remember, George, I don't know, remember any elk being up around Bernie. And he said, well, there's some Roosevelt elk they had planted up there years ago. And he was pretty sure he knew this guy owned a place up there. And we could go up to the place and shoot us an elk. And he said he knew some people down there at the store just outside of Bernie, a little ways, that would dress it out for us. And all we'd have to do is just go up and shoot it. And well, I felt a little bit weird about it. You know what, this somehow doesn't seem right, but I just couldn't hardly say no again. So I said, well, all right then. I told him I don't have a rifle anymore. He said, I don't worry, I got a 303 here I'll let you use. It's got a nice scope on it. And it shoots real well. So I told him, well, okay then. And he said he'd meet me at a certain place. I could just drive my pickup over there, and then I could ride up with him. I said, well, no, I don't really want to do that. I'll go, but if I go, I want to take my own car or my own pickup, because if I decide I want to leave early, I don't want to ruin everybody's hunting trip, because I want to leave early. I haven't been staying up late very much lately, and I kind of have a tendency to get a little tired. I told him I had this wrist that's been bothering me too, and he said, don't worry about it. Just come on and just bring your pickup, and we'll go up there and you can follow us up or follow me up. Won't be anybody but me. And so I told him okay. And I piddled around here for a day or two getting my stuff ready, and I drove over here to a place where I was supposed to meet old George, and he showed me that 303 he had. It was a nice rifle, real nice bolt action. So I told him okay, and I took it and took my other stuff, and he got in his pickup, and I got in my pickup, and I followed him up there. He said there might be a guy who's going to meet some guy up there. And so it took us a while to get up there, full day's drive, better part of the day's drive. It's way up the other side of Reading. By the time we got up there, I was ready to pull off. I was hungry and tired. And so anyhow, we met this guy down here at the store, and he took us up to a cabin he had about a couple miles out of Bernie, back down a little bit southeast, off on a dirt road, about a mile on a dirt road. A nice little cabin. It's very well stocked. Had firewood in case we needed it. Had groceries, and he said the only thing was, when we left, to try to leave it like we found it, stocked and everything. And we told him, okay, we would. So, make a long story short, we got to talking, and the conversation came back to a couple of things that we'd talked about before. And I wasn't really anxious to talk about it, about these. I felt a little strange, to be honest with you. He said, well, don't worry about it. We'll get up early in the morning, and we're going out there, and I know this spot. So we got up early the next morning, had some coffee, and took a thermos and lunch and rifles, and took off hiking. I guess we must have walked about 2 miles and found this real nice little place. He said, why don't we just sit around here for a while and see what, comes across our tracks? I said, yeah, that's okay. So we sat around there for a little while, and he said, you know where you are now? I said, oh, yeah, I know where I am. I'm pretty good at directions. I've got a couple landmarks. I remember this one tree back there, and hill off, off in the distance there. I lined it up with that. And he said, well, okay. And so it started getting on in the day, and we hadn't seen anything. I hadn't even heard anything. And I suggested maybe we ought to head back. Oh, no, not yet. He said, we'll head back in plenty of time. Won't take but a couple hours to get back. We'll be sure we get back before dark. So anyhow, I said, okay. And so we fiddled around there a little bit. I sat down and I was kind of tired. And I told him, I'm going to take a little nap here. If anything comes by, why wake me up? He said, okay. So I leaned back against the tree there and laid my rifle down on the ground, the end up on a rock so we can get any dirt in the barrel. And I took a little nap and went to sleep. I goes, you know what? It was getting on into nighttime. The time I woke up, and old George, he wasn't anywhere in sight. I thought, what the hell's going on here? And I started hollering at him. I didn't get any answer. And so I said, oh, man, what am I going to do now? I don't want to spend the night out here. And I was pretty sure I could find my way back. So I said, well, hell, you know what? I'll just head on back. And so I went back. It took me about 3.5 hours to get back. And I wasn't too sure until I just happened to accidentally stumble onto the cabin on this dirt road. And I figured old George was probably already in there, but he wasn't. He wasn't there. So I went on in, and there wasn't much for me to do except go ahead and go to bed. I went to bed, went to sleep. I woke up the next morning. George still wasn't there. I said, what the hell is going on? So I thought, well, I better report this to somebody. And so I hopped in my pickup, and I put everything in there like I was going to leave to go home. I didn't want to, I no telling what was going to happen, and I didn't want to have to turn around and come back if worse comes to worse about anything. So I went on back down there by where the store was, and this guy was in the cabin. He looked around, and he said, where's George? And I said, well, I don't know. I was going to ask you that. I told him what happened, that we had gone out here, and he looked at me really funny. Strange look. And he said, well, yeah, he should have been back. And I said, I know he should have been back. I yelled for him, but I couldn't hear him. So I said, hell, I'm not going to spend the night out here. And so I walked on back and I found the cabin and spent the night there. I figured he'd be back, but he never did show up. And this guy said, well, we better report this. And so we got hold of the park ranger, the forest ranger there, game warden, and told him about it. And they took him back down there to the cabin, showed him where the cabin was. I went ahead with him. I went on back down there and showed him the trail we took. And I told him, I said, look, I'll show you how to get down here. I'm going to turn and come back before it gets dark. And so I showed him how to get there. And they decided they'd go ahead and look around a little bit. So I turned around and came on back. And this one guy had a walkie-talkie, and he was back in the cabin. One of the game wardens was back in the cabin. And pretty soon they got a call on that. The guy from down there said, listen, why don't you tell JC that he might as well go on back. I said, he told me, I said, well, what's going on? What happened? And he said, well, evidently they found George. And I said, they found him. Well, what's wrong? I mean, how come he's not coming back? We came down here together. We should go back together. And they said, nah, he won't be coming back. And I wanted to know what happened. Well, he didn't want to tell me. And I said, look, I don't give a shit. You tell me. I want to know what happened. I'm not going to come up here and just turn around and go back and leave George up here not knowing anything about it. And he said, well, they found him about maybe a quarter of a mile from where you stopped, where you showed us you stopped, took a little nap, and it was off to the left. And I said, off to the left? That's kind of like going uphill. He said, yeah, if he'd kept going, made a little circle, he would have come right back up here onto this road down a ways. It looked like he left here with the intentions of circling around to the left and coming back. And I said, well, he wouldn't have done that, left me out there. And I told him I figured I could find my way back, but I wasn't sure. And they said, well, I don't know. I can just tell you what it looked like. And I asked what happened to him. And he said, well, it looks like that he was walking along. He climbed over some stumps, a couple of stumps, and he must have tripped and fell. And then he tripped and fell. That damn rifle fell and hooked on a snag, and it shot him right under the chin, went right up through his chin, right up through his head, and killed him. I said, well, I'll be damned. And I said, you sure? Now, there wasn't anybody else out there. No. It was It looked pretty cut and dried. You can see where he got up on this stump and he started to step down off of it and he tripped. And the rifle, the stick, the stop in the rifle, it caught the rifle trigger. It pulled on it. It was still in the trigger housing. And you could see where it just went right up. I said, well, I'll be damned. That's terrible. I said, boy, you know, I wish now the hell I hadn't come with him. And asked me what I mean. I said, well, I didn't really want to go hunting with him. I hadn't, you know, I hadn't been hunting in years. I tried to talk him out of it, but he just insisted. This guy, one guy looked at the other guy, and he looked at him real funny and kind of shook his head. And I said, what, you know, what's the matter? And he said, well, I don't know, nothing, I guess. And I said, well, you know, it's too bad about George. Somebody's going to tell his family. I would, but frankly, I'm not very well acquainted with his family or any, you know, I just knew George just from the neighborhood. And the guy said, oh, don't worry, we'll tell George. And he said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, it looks to me like he meant to double back and come on back and leave you out here. It just looks that way. And I thought, oh, shit, I got a little chill there. I mean, this didn't, you know, I felt strained. Damn, what am I going to do? Get back down and have to move? Go to some town where they don't know me? And the other guy looked at me, he shook his head, and he said, well, you know, I knew something was fishy because George has never asked to use this cabin before. And he never mentioned you before, but one time, he said he asked you for a favor one time. You didn't do it for him, and he just wanted to kind of maybe take you hunting or something, and then maybe you'd owe him one. And boy, it did occur to me then what the hell was going on. You know, he couldn't do it in my home, but he figured he'd get me out here in the boonies and do it. So anyhow, I said, okay. And this guy said, don't worry about it. You won't be hearing anybody about this. Nobody even knows you came with George but me. And I won't tell anybody. I know George. I know what kind of person he was. I got a pretty good idea of what was happening. And you got nothing to worry about from me. So I said, okay. And I got my pickup and took off. And I'll tell you what, I never slowed down until I got home. Pulled in the park, went inside, took my clothes off, and took a shower, and out of the bed and slept for about 10 hours. So anyhow, that's the last time I ever heard of George. And frankly, I hate to say it, but I'm kind of glad because that's just one thing that I won't have to have on my mind now for the rest of my life, worrying about it. So anyhow, that ends the story about old George and the big guy, George Perry, leader of the neighborhood. So I imagine there'd be some people crying. There'd probably be some people laughing about it too. So that's all there is to it. This is JC. I'll see you later.